Hi, guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is I, Kathleen, your conscious coach. How's everyone doing today? Sorry, I got so much light in here. How is everyone doing though? Just checking in with everyone. Weird thing happened right when I was getting ready to do this broadcast. Right when I was getting ready to do this broadcast, my phone shut down, so it will not come on at all. I know it looks gross, but that's just because I touch it all the time. It's a phone. Um, so yeah, that happened. And also my Facebook shut down. So it wanted me to reset my password and do all of that by putting my ID in, like upload a picture of my ID. So I don't know what that's all about, but I have like more than one Facebook page, and it blocked me out of both my Facebook pages. My phone is shut down, and I was supposed to be on Clubhouse as well. So I was going to use my phone to be on Clubhouse, and my phone won't come on. Like it's just been stuck right here for about 10 minutes to 4 when I started to prepare to log on. So anyway, Restream is working. So I'm here on Restream. That's the platform I use for this live show. So welcome to the Conscious Hour with Kathleen. I am Kathleen, your conscious coach. Sorry, I was venting. But I am Kathleen, your conscious coach, the author of the Conscious Book Collection. I am chosen an educator, author, speaker, and writer. And I am your conscious coach. We're going to be talking about something today that I totally believe is worthy of conversation. It deals with us and how we manage in our homes and the welfare of our children. I know, right? Some people don't think of it that way, but actually, that's what it is. This light is killing me, guys. I'm trying to figure out what's good without it turning grainy. Um, and so yeah, we're going to be talking about that today. And I don't want to talk about it in a I don't want to about it in a dismissive way, right? I'm not here to talk about it in a way where I'm presenting it and you're just dismissing it, or I'm dismissing you or your thoughts or your opinion. I really want to talk about this in a real way, right? Like it's a real thing, not just, you know, sitting on the porch drinking some tea having a conversation type of way, right? I really want to bring some reality to it, some body to it, some imagination, some thought. Because I am the conscious coach. So today what we'll be talking about, I'm just gonna try to do like a little 30 minutes, something like that. Why do black children get whoopings? Now, before I get criticized for how I spell whoopings, look, child, I went online and there were actually some book titles out, and there were some studies that were posted or published, and they all spell whoopings this way: WHUPPINGS, and some of them said whippings, which is like whipping. Like the other day I was making banana pudding and I had to whip the pudding, the cream. So look, this is how it's spelled. So why do black children get whoopings? And is it the Christian thing to do? Now, I think this is an important conversation because we are in the 2021 era, right? Where things are shifting, things are changing. We're coming to a level of awareness that we probably, well, not probably, we've never been at this level of awareness, right? We've never had, I'm typing hello in the chat just in case anybody, if you want to make a comment or anything like that, I can see it during the show. Facebook is good, Periscope is good, and YouTube is good. So everything is good. So what I was saying was, I want to talk about it because we're living in this era, this 2021 era, right? Where we literally finally have permission to have these discussions, right? Because prior to this year, racism was not real. Racism was a thought, right, for a lot of people. Racism was not on the forefront. Racism was not being dealt with, like not at all. The stories that they've told over the years have never been confronted, right? I mean, they've been confronted, don't get me wrong, but not on this level, right? Not on this scale, not at the it's like at the same time everybody is able to get involved and kind of have the same thought, right? And now everybody is solution oriented, right? Everybody's looking for a solution. Everybody's trying to figure Black out. And so I think it's important that we have this conversation. Like, why do Black children get whoopings? I was looking at a paper earlier from the National Institute of Behavior and National Institute of Health, which is, I think that's what Dr. Fauci works for, NIH, the National Institute of Health. So I was reading a paper on there, and I'm going to show you guys this paper. I'm going to share it with you. Give me just a second here. Where's my, what's the name that lets me do that? Hold on a second. Share my screen. Where's my page that I want to show you though? An application. There it is. Application window. Which one is it though? Ooh, none of those are it. Chrome tab. There we go. Okay. Let's see how this looks. All right. So I was looking at this one particular article where it's literally talking about when Black students are beaten in school and Black educators are to blame. Now, that's one of the articles that talked about how. That's not the one I want to talk about right now. Let me jump to this other one. Here it is, the National Center of Behavior Institute. I think that's what NCBI means. But let's click on this for just a second. Hope I still got you guys. So ethnic differences and the link between physical discipline and later adolescents externalizing behaviors. That's one of the things I want us to take a look at. Now, I'm going to put this link in the bio. You can go and read this whole thing, for yourself, because what's going to make a difference for us, right? That I believe what's going to make a difference for us is knowledge, right? We've never been in a place of seeking, extreme knowledge. Like, I want to know the answer. I want to know what this is about. I want to know, is this beneficial for me, or how this works, or what's the result if I follow this model or this practice? Like, we've got to get to that place, right? And we've never really been there because we've been held back. Early on when slavery existed, one of the main things they focused on was not allowing us to learn, not allowing us to read, not allowing us basically to draw conclusions and to make determinations and to make our own choices. So this talks about ethnic differences in the link between physical discipline and later adolescence externalizing behavior. So basically, it's talking about how all of this discipline, whooping your kids, spanking them, all the things that you do later lead to behavior issues, right? Now, I'm going to break something down and I want you to just kind of follow what I'm saying. So here it talks about the background. Parents use physical abuse, has generated controversy related to concerns that its use is associated with adjustment problems such as aggression and delinquency in children. Okay. However, recent evidence suggests that there is a ethnic differences in associations between physical discipline and the children's adjustment. So not only are they saying that discipline affects children, but they are saying there is a difference in ethnicities, right? I oftentimes hear Black people say, hey, you got to beat your kids and keep them on a straight and narrow way because, white people don't whip their children and then they go out and they shoot up the schools, whatever the case may be. And we know some incidents like that. However, does that mean, because our children don't generally go to school and shoot up people anyway, like we're not even built like that. Like we're going to deal with the person we're dealing with. Now, we might have some behaviors, we might do some random stuff, but our genetic makeup, our pattern of behavior, I should say, is we don't go out and shoot up the whole community. People don't have anything to do with what we got going on and things like that. So there's no record of a Black person stepping into a place of business or whatever the case may be and just randomly shooting up the place to the point where Black parents should take that under consideration in their homes, right? We're not making bombs. Let's be trio. Let's be real. And so looking at this report, it kind of breaks down everything about children getting whoopings up to pre-kindergarten, up to age 5 through age 11, and then all the way through junior high and all the way through high school. Now, if you read all of this, it says spanking is a discipline strategy that has been used for over 90% of American parents at some point in their parenting history and is widely used by parents in other countries as well. Yet parents use spanking has generated a considerable amount of public controversy. So it goes on to talk about all of that. Later on, what it talks about, and I'm scrolling down because this is a real report. You have to go through, break down all the numbers, all that kind of stuff, which I like doing. It's no problem for me, but I'm not trying to go through all that with you. And so basically, when you get down to the final conclusion, I think I just skipped it. Okay, you see this huge gap in ratio in numbers, right, of how it affects European Americans. You got 0.69%, and African Americans, you have a negative 1.37 or minus 1.37. European 1.44, African American uh, uh, negative 3.65. So here you're seeing all of that spanking, all of that whooping, all of the stuff you do to your kids. What kind of effect is it having on your children? Is it really correcting behavior? Is it really helping our children? Is it really guidance? Is it really helping them figure out their life? Right? Because that's the part we're missing. Beating your child and whooping your child is not the same as guiding your child. Okay? I need you to understand that. Beating your child and whooping your child is not the same as guiding your child. It is not. Point blank and period. It is not the same. It's not going to turn into the same. It will never be the same. And that's the part we're missing. And so on other people's side, other races' side, they are setting the example. And guess what? They can afford to, right? Because most of them have higher paying jobs. Most of them are not trying to raise a child in a single parent home. Most of them are living off of some portion of inheritance. They have a different set of situations. Most of them are not beating their kids every day on a regular basis. Why? Because they do have some other elements in their home, such as wealth, right? Or financial stability, right? They live in safe neighborhoods, right? Their children are going to school that don't have a whole lot of people that are impoverished and have behavior issues from the beginning. And so you're just dealing with two very different elements, two very different people, right? And it doesn't have so much to do with race, right? I mean, it does only because we have the racism factor where we've been oppressed and systemically oppressed and what's the word I'm looking for? Discriminated against. So all of those factors go into that bundle where we have this notion and we think our only option is to beat our children. Okay, so I put the link in the chat. Go back and read that full article. I showed you the numbers in terms of conclusion. And now I just want to speak to us in terms of why do Black children get whippings, and is this the Christian thing to do? So jumping into that Christian part, okay? And I know I'm wading in the water, but jumping into that Christian part, We have spankings, discipline, and beatings. What's the difference and what are the boundaries, right? If you talk to a Christian, the first thing they're going to say, in the Bible. Look, I grew up Pentecostal Baptist. I've heard these stories a gazillion times. First thing they're going to say is, in the Bible, it says, beat your child. It will drive foolishness out of his heart. Oh, what's the number one? You know it. What's that number one? Spare the rod, spoil the child. Guess what, boo? Your child can't be spoiled. Your child don't even have nothing, right? Your child living off of crumbs, right? Your child is marginalized. Okay, there's a ceiling for your Black child. There are opportunities that your Black child is withheld from. We're a long way from being spoiled people in general. So I want us to focus not so much on, okay, do I need to spank my child? Do I need to discipline my child? Do I need to beat my child? And focus more on understanding the difference, understanding why we need to have boundaries. And this is, hey, this is just me talking to you. Your opinion may be different. But this is what I believe. There is a difference in spankings, right? Normally, children get spankings because they're doing something that is destruction of property, or number one for me is it's unsafe, right? And to get their immediate attention, we might let out a scream and quickly we might tap them on the leg. That's learned behavior that we learn, right? Doesn't mean it's right, but it's learned behavior that we've learned. We haven't learned to child proof our homes, right? Instead, we just yell at the child. If you unplug that, if you take my glass of water off that table and spill it, oh, if I catch you in that refrigerator, like we've learned to try to control people instead of setting up the atmosphere that's conducive for their learning and less opportunities for them to fail, less opportunity for them to engage in something that could be harmful or dangerous. So we're more on the other side where we just feel like, I'm going to control this. You're going to do what I say when I say do it. And that's how that's going to go. My house is gorgeous. My house is beautiful. It's neat all the time. If you pick up a plate or a glass and come in my living room and leave it on my table, we got beef. I got beef with my own child. I'm going to get you straight. So I just want us to think of it in terms of understanding, a little spanking is okay, I think, every once in a while, because some children have this little edge where they just gonna try you for some reason. They just gonna take their whole bottle and throw it and hit you upside your head, and you be like, no, 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 don't do that. You hurting mommy. And honey, the next thing you know, they clunk you again. And the more you talk to them, they think it's a joke, and you might have to. I told you we don't do that, but also in setting boundaries. One of the things that I began to practice with in my family, now my children grown, but they got children. So what I practice with them is having an elders board meeting, right? I believe that a threefold cord is not easily broken. And I believe if, say like my son who has a daughter, so if me, my son, and my husband sit down to have a conversation with his daughter, that's a group of people saying your behavior is incorrect. We love you, we're your family, but let's talk about this behavior and how you need to change it and what's acceptable to us. And I don't think we're used to that, and we don't practice that. So there's nothing wrong with discipline, right? I don't think you have to strike a child or whoop a child to educate them, to make them understand that they're a part of a family, and because of that they have a responsibility. Now, right now, I'm a virtual teacher, right? I teach a certain grade level, and so when I'm talking to my children and teaching and talking to them about responsibility, I have to communicate effectively first, right? I have to say to them, hey, this is how you act in the classroom. I understand it's virtual, but you have to have clothes on, right? You can't be laying in your bed. Like, there are expectations. So then the question is, when have you ever set the expectations, right? If you've never set the expectation, why are you expecting them to be able to attain it? right? Like, duh, big bright light come on. If you never ever set the expectation, how are you expecting them to measure up? How are you expecting them to know what to do, right? So I want us to really start looking at that. And then beatings, in terms of beatings, that's a no-no. A lot of times parents are beating their children because you're frustrated, you're tired, and you don't know how to effectively communicate. You've never thought about an elders board. You don't even feel like you can call your relatives over to help support you in trying to educate your child about how it's important, how they're certain behave, how they behave is important to the family, and it is a responsibility. So you haven't even done any of that. You're just going straight for the belt, straight for the switch. I mean, I grew up in a home, sorry mom, sorry dad wasn't around, but anyway, I love you dad. But I grew up in a home where it was whoopings all the time, like whoopings, honey. I mean, belt, extension cord, broom, switch, child, look, shoes, fly squatters. This is what they knew, right? This is what they knew in that era. This is what they were taught by their parents. This was their experience. And it kind of just pulled over into their life when they had children. And at this point, it's definitely up to us to break the cycle, right? I was talking on in Clubhouse, and a young lady, we were talking about what's his name on Black Ink? Caesar. We were talking about Caesar because he said he dragged his daughter out of the shower and had beat his daughter. And she said she was naked, and he snatched her out of the shower, wet, onto the floor, beat her, and used his feet and kicked her or stomped her or something. This girl was 16 years old. How are you as a parent that angry with your own seed that you resort to physical harm? Okay. First of all, what is the child missing and what does the child need guidance on? Your measuring stick, right? The metric of how you discipline your children cannot be based on, well, how angry do they make me? That's how I'm going to respond. Well, what did she talk and I told her to be quiet? Oh, I'm gonna pop her in her mouth. That's not how you try to measure what your child needs, right? What your child needs, quite frankly, could have nothing to do with what's coming out of their mouth. And we know that because we're adults. And some of us acted out or had behavior issues when we were young. And we know that something was going on. Maybe we felt abandoned. Maybe we felt like we were being replaced by the new boyfriend that daddy bought. No, Lord, no. By the new girlfriend that daddy got or the new boyfriend that mama got. And we're kids. We don't know how to respond to that. So we respond in a negative way, which resulted in getting your butt whooped. But what we really needed was guidance. What we really needed was a little sit down time and some explanations, right? Not that you got to explain to a child, like why I got to explain. No, you just do what I say. No, what I'm talking about is guidance. What I'm talking about is making sure they understand what's going on and how relationships are built and exist and maintained, right? You want a good relationship with your child. And so I'm not talking about a friendship, a hee ha ha, do what you want to do. I'm talking about a relationship where they learn from you how to communicate and express, right? Their feelings, their emotions, their thoughts. And they learn from you how to control, discipline their emotions, their feelings, their thought, and how to express them in a positive, family friendly way. All of those skills are transferable. So when they learn it at home, when they go out into society, when they go to school, all of those transfer into every area of their life. So they need to build a good relationship at home. And how you do that is through guidance. Let me guide you through. I don't want to beat you through. What good is that? I haven't taught you one skill. I haven't taught you how to, let people know you're introducing people into your new space. It's just like when there's a new employee, right? The new employee just doesn't just come in and just start working, right? They're going to put on some type of list. Hey, we got some new employees, got a new employee coming Thursday. His name is Eric Chawar. You know what I'm saying? Then Eric walks in. He's there. Everybody, hey, Eric, how you doing, Eric? Well, I'm Kathleen. I'm Rebecca. I'm John. Oh, well, you're gonna love it here or you're gonna hate it here, whatever we're gonna say. But you guys get in brand new relationships and just bring them in the house. You don't define to the person you're talking to who the child is, the respect, the boundaries and expectations, and you don't tell the child who this person is. This is Terrence and we dating. Huh? And I'm sorry we hadn't known any better, but this is the time that we just start doing it right. Start doing it right. And there's never a time when you should beat your kid. Like you shouldn't even get that angry. I mean, I have a fern here. I wish I could show it to you. I have a fern here that I love, that I paid $32 for. And so if I don't take care of it, if I don't water it, give it plenty of sun, do all the things I'm supposed to do, it dies. The leaves fall off. It withers. It turns brown. It loses its green luster. Well, when you yell at your child and you beat your child because you're angry and you're mad, something in them is dying. Their ability to communicate, their ability to trust people, their ability to express themselves. When I say express yourself, I ain't talking about, well, I just want to say this. No. Teach our children how to express themselves. Mom, I feel this way. I just want you to know, because at the end of the day, they just need help managing all of that. Okay. So when we beat our kids, what lessons are we teaching and what lessons are they learning? See, here's the thing about beating your child and thinking that that's a solution. You got to think about, what am I really teaching them? Now we can say, well, I'm teaching them that if you do something you're not supposed to, I'm teaching them to think before they act. Because if they don't think before they act, they're going to end up in trouble. They're going to end up in jail. They're going to end up shot. They're going to end up pregnant. They're going to end up whatever we say, whatever conclusions we want to draw. But in reality, if we are beating them and whooping them and spanking them in moments when we should be setting them down to teach them instruction, to guide them, they're really only learning to respond to answers that they don't approve or don't like in a negative and aggressive way. That's all it is to it. Oh, I thought we was friends. We are friends. Oh, but you were out with Tisha the other day and you didn't even call me and y'all went to the movies without me. Okay, is that how you approach a person who's supposed to be your friend and you were a friend too? So if they haven't learned it at home, where they're going to learn it? How to approach a conversation, how to approach a conversation with someone who you are in a relationship with already, an established relationship. So then he or she would know to go to Tisha and say, hey, so you and Tisha went out the other night? Yeah. Oh man, I would have liked to have gone to that movie too. Did you guys have fun? Girl, yeah, we had fun. Next time we go, I'll just call you. I don't know what I was thinking. Oh, thank you, Tish. Please do, because I really would like to go. You see the difference? If they don't know how to be in relationships and maintain relationships and have good communication, right? It's going to go over to the other side and spill into all the types of all relationships they try to establish, right? One thing I used to do when I was young, I'm sorry to admit this, is I'm kind of ashamed. I need my fan so I could, have a little shame here. But in my home, I learned to be aggressive. I had some abuse that had happened to me. So I was definitely, I was a fighter. I was a scrapper. And so, whenever a guy would do something that would make me angry, I would hit him. Or I would just flat out cuss him out and talk crazy to him. I had no idea how to manage relationships. I had no idea what was good for me, beneficial to me. And so I oftentimes responded out of anger, out of frustration, which really means I don't know how to manage this situation. I work with kids as a substitute teacher. I have worked with children. in classrooms year after year. And one thing that I do find is most of the kids who are frustrated are the children who don't know. They don't have the skill set to learn. They don't have a skill set to study. They don't even have the skill set to listen. I worked in a classroom in the school system one year as a substitute teacher. Long-term positions is what I love. And I kind of get in one school, they love me so much, I kind of stay. But the children in this particular school had to, they were so used to being yelled at that if I didn't raise my voice and ask them to do something or demand that they do something, they wouldn't do it. And I had to teach them, I'm not going to yell at you guys. I'm not. So I had to speak in a very, very soft tone. They couldn't even hear me. They would be like, the teacher talking. What's she saying? I can't even hear her. And I had to teach them how to communicate, that yelling is not communicating, that me being angry is not love, that me being angry does not mean I like you or care for you or anything. So, what lessons are they learning, right? When we're beating them, spanking them, not guiding them, not teaching them, not showing them how to be family oriented, not showing them how to be inclusive, not showing them their responsibilities, and not showing them that they are important to the family and that the decisions they make affect the family. It's not about you getting a whooping. It's about you understanding how your decisions impact the family as a whole. And then we can become loyal to the family and committed to the family. And then we can start growing our wealth. And so those lessons are important. We don't want our children learning the wrong thing. I don't need to teach my child how to get smart with people. I don't need to teach my child how to snap back and roll her head. I don't need to teach my child how to roast people. I don't need to teach my child to respond before people get the words out of their mouth. I don't even need to teach. Look, I don't even need to teach my child to be present for a fight. You don't have to be present for that. That's not you. That's not who we are. And I know I grew up in the projects, right? After my parents got divorced, we moved to the projects, and it was a whole nother situation coming from the rural area, right? Because the rural area was more of a suburban type area, right? No hood. You can't hear anybody cussing. There are no sirens. There's none of that going on. So it's a really, really protected life, right? And so when I moved to the hood, I heard the gunshots, the fighting, the sirens, the arguing all day long over petty stuff. I seen people get shot, killed, ran over, you name it. It was there. Drugs, alcohol, blah, blah, blah. And I had to learn how to fight, right? Because the people around me, their behaviors was such that, every time you look around, you darn near got to fight for your life. Only got in a couple of fights, by the way. Knocked a couple people out, by the way. And so anyway, I'm not interested in. I'd rather my child walk away, not be around that environment, not be around those types of people, and definitely I don't need them responding to that because that's not who you are. There's a myth that we have to teach our children to survive, and the reality is Capitol Hill, right? You can't stop other people from doing what they do. And there is no direct correlation that beating your child is setting your child up to win when they face certain situations at school or in society. Right? Now, winning a fight at school these days, a fight at school, period, these days could land your child in the juvenile system. So I'm saying collectively, we've all got to get away from this notion of teaching our children to fight and beating our kids and doing all the things that we've been doing because the lessons that they're learning are not adding value to their life. The correlations between how we see ourselves and how slave owners viewed us. And I think this is important, right? Because we are a people who were oppressed. We are a people who were enslaved, right? So our people weren't slaves, right? They were enslaved. right? So the people who were owners who bought humans, disgraceful as that is, I think there's a mix up. I think that we've been conditioned at this point where we suffered for so long, we now have Stockholm syndrome. We now believe that the things that they believe were appropriate for us are now appropriate for us as a people, as a race, as a family. What your slave owner thought was beneficial is not going to be beneficial for you as a Black family. I should have said that first, right? I don't look, slavery was about control. Slavery was about, I'm going to show you by example what will happen to you, the type of punishment you will have to endure if you cross this line, if you try to run, if I tell you to do something one time and you don't do it. That's what slavery was about. It was about control. And so the slave owners had to control you by beating you and make an example out of you. They tarred people and put feathers on them. Do you know? Look, my daughter, I asked her to it was a real stupid decision, but let me put it out there. I asked her to, my microwave went out and I needed some wax to wax, some hot wax. And so I asked her to go to her neighbor's house, warm up the wax and bring it back. She was a teenager at the time. I thought she could do it. And she went across the street with the hot wax, well, cold wax, and warmed up the wax. And on her way back, she spilled it. She spilled it on her leg and suffered a burn on her leg. God forgive me if I didn't take her to the doctors. Did I? I hope I did. Well, she suffered a burn on her leg, and it left a huge scar. Back in slavery days, they tarred Black people and put feathers on them. They suffered third-degree burns. They beat Black people. They tied them to trees and beat them. They beat grown men and grown women to teach them to obey them. Why do you think that's necessary for us to do to our children? Like, that's just not even cool whatsoever. That doesn't even make any sense. And if you don't have any control, and in other words, if you don't have a great relationship with your children and you have not been teaching them how important they are to the family and how their decisions impact the family, if you haven't been teaching them the root things, well, then how are you expecting a flower? That's kind of don't work. And the root of what we're doing came from slavery. I'm telling you, you need to dig all of that stuff out and disregard it and create your own root system, your own model for how you care for your family. Because whoopings and beatings and stuff, that's not care. And Lord, I'm going back to another scripture again. Because Black people love to say that the Bible says that those he loves, he chastens. The Bible says that. So it's got to be right for my child. Let me tell you something. In the Bible, it says, teach them in the way that they should go. And when they are older, they will not depart from it. He says, teach it to them. Put it on their wrists. See, these plates right here, they say stuff. See? Put it on their wrist. Put it on their forehead. Put it on the doorpost. Have you done any of that? Before you run to scriptures that say, beat them, it'll drive the foolishness out of their heart. Excuse me. Before you run to all these beat them scriptures, have you read any of the teach them scriptures? And I'm going to throw this little donut in there since we like to snack off of beatings in the Bible. The Bible was rewritten during the height of the slave era by King James, who was a slave owner. I don't have time to debate with you. I'm telling you the truth, whether you accept it or not. You have to understand that the Bible was written during the slave era, rewritten by King James. It's the King James Bible. And if he owned slave, and he did, he's definitely going to put some things in there to help him control the people who he is the owner of. I can't put it no plainer than that. There is a direct correlation between us beating our children like no other race on the planet does. Got a little bug here. Like no other planet does. And our history of being enslaved. No one can deny that. Evidence is strong. It makes total sense. The next thing is how breaking away will heal us and how moving into a teacher/educator model will save us. So here's the deal, guys. We have this thing, right? We've developed this new nomenclature, this new language that was inherited from slavery, where we speak all of these all this different dialogue, right? And we invite chaos into our own front door with all of this nonsense. And I'm sorry, you might not like the words that I've chosen. I might not like the words that I'm saying, but it's kind of the way they're coming out right now. It's nonsense. It's nonsense to say to a Black child, I'm going to beat you. And in some way, this is going to culminate into a great experience and teach you how to discipline yourself. Our children are born with brains. I don't know if you know that or not. Every person that is born with a brain. One psychologist call it tabula rasa. It means that it's a blank slate. And as they grow and as they develop, you are adding value, ways for them to process thoughts. You're eliminating certain elements in their life because you are the one who is feeding them this information. Now, regardless of what anyone says, right? The biggest influence in a child's life is going to be their family. I don't care what anybody says. That's just what it is. So if at the basic level, here we go back to that root, if you have created a foundation for your children and for your family, if you're sitting down and teaching those lessons, if you're making sure your child understands the value of the relationship, you can bring healing into your family. You can teach that skill and bring healing into your community, right? So what's wrong with us being teachers and educators? That's my question. Look, we want to teach all these false lessons about being hard and don't let nobody play with you and being street hard. And if somebody mess with you, touch you, mess them up. We want to teach all of these lessons. Yet we're still the most impoverished race. We're still the race that's less likely to succeed in certain areas. We're still the race that has over 70% single home status. We are still the race where 85% of Black male prisoners identified as being from single parent homes. We are still the race where a 2019 Guttmacher report, I hope I'm not saying the wrong name. If I am, I apologize, released that 54% of African-American high school students were already sexually active between the age of 13 and 19 or either 15 and 19. So how are all of these beatings really paying off? How are all of these beatings really controlling the behaviors of our children? Here's the answer. They're not. We have to be willing to become the teachers and the educators in our own homes. Because that's where the issue lies. That's the reality of it. That's the real circumstance. No one can solve your problem, right? They can create programs which are good and have always been here since slavery because they've always pretended like they were trying to help us. So we have all these after school programs, and mentorship, this, that, and whatever. Look, don't stop doing that. But something has to happen in the home from before the time the child is even born. And especially during the time when their brain is developing and they are looking for information and for guidance. So let's not go another year thinking that something is working that is absolutely not working. I was on the Clubhouse and one young lady said, well, if my son is going into the cookie jar and I tell my son not to go into the cookie jar, and my son still goes into the cookie jar, I'm going to beat my sons. I said, so you didn't think to move the cookie jar? Did you think to set him down and explain to him how sharing with the family is important? And how if he eats all of the cookies, then that won't be fair to you and his other siblings? You see the difference? There's a difference between teaching, educating, and thinking a one-off whooping is what solves our problems. It doesn't. We've been getting beat from day one. I told him, I said, white people and other people in society understand that we are deficient in education and they don't care. I said, so when your child at school gets in trouble, they'll use your beating his butt as leverage to control him in the classroom. So again, what type of messages are we sending to our own children where we're raising them in households and in situations, and now they're at school in communities, and then we tell them when they're out there on the street to do whatever that cop says, regardless to how degrading it is, because cops ask you to do degrading things. One time, me and my husband got stopped. My husband and I got stopped. We lived in a very, nice suburban neighborhood here in St. Louis. Anybody knows Manchester Road on the other end, right? It's all about, that's the bread area. You got to make some bread to kind of live out there. He had a new truck. I had a new car. I was going back to school. I was working. He was working. We made decent money, point blank and period. The police used to harass us. Literally. I got stopped one time and the police said, I thought you were going to speed. Nice car, by the way. I see you often. Not in a friendly way. In a very, yeah, he didn't like it. he just didn't. And my husband had got a beautiful big black double cab F-150 truck. I called it Black Beauty. That thing was so gorgeous. And he had bought me a brand new car. And of course they don't care nothing about your story. They don't care about your struggle. They don't care about what you had to go through to finally have good credit and live in a nice neighborhood. They don't care about that. And so one day we got pulled over. I had been out doing a little shopping and we were on our way to meet the in-laws, my husband's brother and his wife, and we were going to have a cookout. And we got pulled over. The officer lies and says, oh, you was weaving back and forth in the road. And I'm like, he lying. He was like, y'all was speeding. You can't speed. Look, Manchester Road, you will never speed down Manchester Road unless it's 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock at night, because traffic is like this. Like, it's impossible. You will never speed on that road, ever. It's stuck in traffic. Yeah, you'll sit there, but no, there's no speeding, period. And so my husband was like, wait, speeding? And he was like, yeah, you were speeding. That's embarrassing. That's belittling. You're in control. You got a gun. And so you think you can do anything. And some of our children have to step out there in the world. It would be nice if they had a good, healthy conscious parent at home, a soft pillow to land on when they got home. It would be nice if they understood that the way that people treat them out in the streets is not how you're going to be treated when you're home with me, my seed, my king, my princess, my queens, my prince, my princess. It would be nice if they knew that how people treated them out there in the streets didn't even match what they could find at home with their own family. That would be nice. So that's another reason why we have to let this false narrative go that me being hard on you and disciplining you and beating you is somehow going to translate as beneficial when you go out into the world, because it's not. So, why do Black children get whoopings? And is it the Christian thing to do? I do want to thank you for joining me for this live. I think it's important that we have these conversations. And I want you guys to have an amazing night. I am Kathleen, your conscious coach, the author of the Conscious Book Collection. Be sure to check out my collection whenever you have an opportunity. And all of these books are written for our purpose. The Legacy Workbook, Hurt People, Help People, Things I Wish I Knew, and So You Think You Want to Have Sex. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have yourself an awesome, awesome weekend. And this is the Conscious Hour with Kathleen, your conscious coach.